The wind, a monstrous shrieking entity, clawed at the ill-fitting door of the cold storage shed, each gust a physical blow that threatened to rip the rusted hinges from their rotted moorings. Loose shards of corrugated tin from the decaying roof rained down, narrowly missing them, striking the packed earth with dull thuds that echoed the frantic hammering in Claire's chest. "Mom, please, please don't leave me." Eli, all of 3 years, and an old soul, sobbed, his small hands desperately, futilely patting his unconscious mother's icy cheek. A darker stain was spreading on the straw beneath her shoulder, where a jagged piece of falling debris had struck her as she'd shielded him. Beside him, Ava shivered violently, a tiny frozen bird, her cries almost swallowed by the tempest, her breathing becoming worryingly shallow. Claire Matthews, a woman who had once naively believed patience could mend any fracture, lay dangerously still. The frigid air, a searing agony in her lungs with each ragged inhale. Her awareness was a guttering flame, threatening to extinguish the blood loss from her shoulder and the festering gash on her heel, making the darkness beckon with a deceptive promise of the peace. She fought for them, but consciousness was a slippery fish. Hours later, or perhaps an eternity punctuated by the relentless onslaught of the storm, and Eli's desperate small pleas, the rusted hinges of the shed door finally groaned open with a sound ripped from a nightmare. A towering silhouette backlit by the faint pre-dawn light that barely pierced the raging blizzard filled the doorway. Nathaniel Grayson, a man whose empire was built on deciphering life's most intricate codes, froze, his own breath catching in his throat. The scene that confronted him was a chilling diorama of a memory he'd fought for decades to bury, a woman limp and pale, a child clinging to her on this very floor, in this very cold, fighting a losing battle. He had been that child once, begging a fading silhouette for his life in this exact spot. Claire Matthews, an artist whose palette had once been vibrant with kindness, now streaked with the grime of despair and the stark red of injury. 3 years tethered to Mark Wallace had been 3 years of sandpaper against her soul, a relentless erosion of self. But that night, every pigment of compassion had been violently shattered by the very people who wore the hollow masks of family. Glendale, a name now etched in her memory with the acid of betrayal and the crimson stain of physical harm. October. The rain, a relentless drenching curtain, had momentarily relented, leaving the world outside weeping and saturated. Inside the opulent Wallace residence, the fireplace crackled, a mocking counterpoint to the ice encasing Claire's heart, the air heavy with the cloying scent of Darlene's expensive lavender diffusers seemed to press down on Claire, thick and suffocating. Amidst this staged domesticity, Claire stood rigid, soaked to the bone, the chills seeping into her marrow, a premonition of the glacial night ahead. Her hands, a white-knuckled vice, gripped the frayed strap of an old canvas bag. Its meager contents, a few changes of children's clothes, a half-empty bottle of now-cold milk, and the small threadbare blanket Ava clutched like a talisman in sleep, were a pathetic testament to her worldly possessions. Her jacket, a thin cotton relic of warmer days, offered no defense against the wind that whistled derisively through the crack in the ornate front door, a crack Mark had always promised with empty casualness to fix. On the velvet couch, Darlene Wallace presided, an empress on her throne. Her pristine white cashmere sweater seemed to repel the room's shadows. "You can walk out on your own, Claire." Darlene purred, her voice a silken razor, swirling the crimson wine in her glass. "Or I can have Sergeant Miller and his rather large constables escort you out. They're quite persuasive, I hear. Your choice, darling. But do decide quickly. It's getting late, and your presence is quite frankly polluting the ambiance." Claire took a breath, deep and shuddering, the air tasting of betrayal lavender and Darlene's venom. "The children are asleep. She managed her voice surprisingly steady, a small, solitary rock against a raging tide. Even better, Darlene conceded with a dismissive wave of her perfectly manicured hand. Easier to carry, I should think. Less fuss. Mark flinched, a barely perceptible tremor that rippled through his expensive suit, but his eyes remained locked on the flickering numbers of the financial news ticker on the enormous flat-screen television, a shrine to his true devotion. Claire's gaze found him unwavering. Mark, after everything, do you truly believe I cheated on you, that I could ever? Her voice trailed off the question, hanging heavy and unanswered. Silence. A vast, echoing chasm. Then, without a flicker of emotion, Mark's voice flat and dead as the stock market on a bad day. Frankly, Claire, I'm not entirely sure those kids are even mine. Their lineage has always been questionable. You always were a little too friendly. The words were a calculated venom designed to paralyze, to shame, to strip her of any remaining dignity. A laugh escaped Claire, a soft, broken sound, not of bitterness, but of dawning, excruciating clarity. It was over. She nodded slowly. There were no more words, none that mattered. Darlene, with a theatrical sigh, placed a small, cheap plastic bag on the polished mahogany coffee table. A few $100s. Generous, I think, considering. Enough to start over if you're remotely intelligent about it. Which, given your track record of poor decisions. She trailed off, letting the insult hang thick and poisonous. Claire took at her hand, surprisingly steady. She moved with the practiced silence of a mouse upstairs, each step an echo. Ava, small and cherubic, clutched Barnaby. Eli lay fisted in the fabric of Claire's old sweater. With an efficiency born of desperation, she swaddled them, adrenaline and a mother's fierce primal love fueling her. Downstairs, Darlene had already swung the front door wide, a yawning black maw inviting the predatory night. Claire cast one last lingering look at Mark. Not with hope, but as an archaeologist, unearthing a forgotten ruin, recognizing the faint outlines of something once cherished, now irretrievably lost. Love, she now understood with chilling certainty, was no armor against calculated cruelty. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, not to the adults, but to the sleeping innocents in her arms. Then she stepped onto the porch. The door clicked shut behind her, soft yet as final as a coffin lid. The rain resumed its assault. Icy needles struck her neck. Without hesitation, Claire stripped off her inadequate jacket and wrapped it tighter around the children. Her bare feet met the cold, slick stone of the porch steps. A sharp pain shot up her leg as a shard of unseen glass, perhaps from a broken bottle Mark had carelessly tossed earlier in a fit of pique, bit deeply into her heel blood, instantly welling. She winced, but didn't falter. Ava whimpered, disturbed. Eli stayed clenched to her blouse. No destination, only the unshakable conviction that house was a mausoleum. They will not grow up in such insidious hatred, she vowed silently. If I must lose everything, so be it. At 9:14 p.m., Claire Matthews was ejected armed with 2 sleeping children, a torn canvas bag, a bleeding foot, a rapidly chilling body, and the last flickering ember of her faith. No one called her name. The wind, a malevolent trickster, stole her breath. She could barely feel her feet, each step sending a jolt of agony from her injured heel. But she didn't cry. Through the skeletal silhouettes of the bare trees, an old forgotten storage shed loomed. Her vision blurred the streetlights swimming. A strange warmth was spreading through her, a dangerous lethargy. Fever, a distant, rational part of her mind whispered. Infection. The gash on her shoulder, sustained when Mark roughly shoved her against the doorframe, earlier throbbed in grim unison with her foot. But her heart commanded, "Do not stop." The rotted wooden door of the shed, yielded with a mournful groan. The air inside was a fetid miasma of stale hay, damp earth, and something metallic like old rust and decay. Gaps in the walls whistled, the tin roof rattled, threatening to tear loose. In a relatively dry corner, she laid Ava and Eli on old straw. Sharp thistles pricked their cold, reddened cheeks. Ava began to whimper, cold and disoriented. "Mommy. Mommy, I'm so cold," she chattered, gripping Claire's unresponsive hand. Claire, moving as if through water, stroked her daughter's hair, unwrapped her own thin scarf, and fumbled to rewrap it around Ava. "I know, baby," she murmured. "Mommy's trying." Eli was eerily different. Silent, his eyes wide and dark pools of ancient knowledge. He didn't cry. He simply looked, his gaze preternaturally mature. Behind his left ear, the faint teardrop-shaped birthmark, his brave drop. But tonight, his profound quietude terrified her. He didn't flinch when laid down, just watched a universe of unspoken anxieties. Claire felt the tremors start deep, uncontrollable. The fever was taking hold. She pulled them close, pressing their small bodies to her failing warmth. To her left, Ava trembled. To her right, Eli, still listening. To his mother's increasingly shallow, stuttering breaths, his sister's gasping sobs, the wind savage, scraping the ominous creak-crack from the timbers above. He catalogued each sound of their encroaching doom. Her eyelids, heavy as stone, drooped. Ava's hiccups were softer. "Mommy, don't fall asleep. Please, Mommy." Claire managed a slow nod, a shattered glass smile. "I won't, sweetie. Just resting my eyes." A lie. She knew her awareness was slipping. Eli knew it too. He sat up slowly, deliberately touched her cheek. Marble cold. Her arms, once of ice, were lax. He stared, etching her face into his memory, then leaned close, his breath a warm ghost. Please don't leave me, Mommy." The distilled essence of primal fear spoken by a boy who had never been taught to beg, yet found the universal language of desperate love. Then a horrifying crack screech as a section of the roof buckled, further dust and splinters cascading down. Eli instinctively threw his small body over Ava, trying to shield her, whispering his plea again into the roar of the storm. Miles away, a black Range Rover navigated the treacherous, mud-slicked path towards the long-dormant Grayson farm. Its powerful LED headlights sliced through the dense rows of skeletal pine trees. At the wheel sat Nathaniel Grayson, 45, a self-made biotech millionaire. This farm, derelict and forgotten, was the only place he had ever, however briefly, called home. Jedediah Grayson had found him here, a half-drowned 6-year-old taking him in. Jedediah had died when Nathaniel was 19. Nathaniel had fled, vowing never to return. Until now. An unscratchable itch pulled him back. He switched off the engine. Maggie Jean, the housekeeper, loyal guardian of the empty land, stood silhouetted on the porch. "Welcome home, Nate," she said. "Still smells like old hay in coming winter. Cold as Jedediah's well water." "I don't recall it ever being particularly warm, Maggie." Nathaniel replied, his gaze drifting past her, towards the squat, dark silhouette of the wooden storage shed. He remembered his first night there, listening to the roof, groaning, convinced it would collapse on him. Maggie Jean led him inside. The kitchen, warmed by the wood stove, offered ginger tea. But Nathaniel remained by the window, gaze fixed on that distant shed. "Heard a strange noise earlier," Maggie said quietly. "Thought it was a coyote. But then, it sounded like a child crying. High-pitched, rhythmic, sobbing. Then another sound, a terrible cracking like timber giving way. Coming from the back shed." She noticed how Nathaniel's observation of the shed suddenly sharpened his posture, tensing. Heard a vehicle too not long before the worst of the storm hit. Headed away from Glendale towards the old access road to town, then silence. Odd for a night like this. Nathaniel didn't answer, but Maggie saw his hand clench. His eyes journeyed somewhere painfully old. "Do you want me to go check Nate?" "No," he said, his voice unexpectedly hoarse. "I'll go." His shoes, still damp, sank into mud. The wind bit. The shed hadn't changed, or perhaps it had. One section of the roof looked dangerously bowed. With every step closer, his heart hammered. Not from fear of what he might find, but from a terrifying visceral certainty that someone echoed his own long-ago desolation. His hand closed around the rusted door handle. A tortured creak. Nathaniel froze. The musty air, the scent of damp straw and desperation. And fresh blood. The tableau of utter despair, a woman heartbreakingly thin, collapsed, her shoulders stained dark. A large, splintered beam hung precariously above her. Two small children huddled against her, one seemingly fast asleep, the other, a small boy bolt upright, his dark eyes luminous in the gloom, staring directly at him. He didn't flinch, showed no fear, no hope. Just watched. As if silently posing the eternal questions, who are you and what will you do? Nathaniel's mind flashed to that woman in the flowered dress years ago, laughing with her daughter. Could it be the child with the haunted eyes reminded him so fiercely of himself? He had lain here on this very straw, convinced that each groan of the timbers meant his end. But no one had opened the door then. Now he was the one. The irony, a bitter draught. He knelt, shrugging off his heavy coat, laying it over them. His hands trembled. Claire, Maggie had mentioned a woman named Claire, newly arrived in the area, struggling, was breathing shallowly. Ava stirred. Eli remained silent, gaze unwavering. Nathaniel placed a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. Eli didn't pull away. "I'm here now," he rasped, voice thick with unshed tears. "You're safe." Eli nodded. Small, almost imperceptible. But sure. With agonizing tenderness, Nathaniel gathered Claire's almost weightless form, noting the alarming bleeding from her shoulder and the feverish heat radiating from her skin despite the pervading cold. He carefully scooped up Ava. "Can you walk, son?" Eli nodded grimly, determined, his hand gripping the hem of the coat covering his mother. Outside, Maggie Jean had the Range Rover's door open, warm light spilling out, catching Claire's ghastly pale face. She asked no questions, producing a blanket, a thermos, and a first aid kit. The silent kindness of someone who knew suffering. As the SUV pulled away, the shed door jolted, swung ajar. The wind lifted stray straw like lost whispers. Inside, Eli sat ramrod straight beside his mother. He turned his dark eyes, fixing on the receding shed. It wasn't quite as scary anymore. Nathaniel, one hand gently on Claire's brow, the other on the wheel, looked back. Not at the derelict building, but at the shattered piece of himself he had unexpectedly returned to reclaim. Some doors people wished someone would open. If fortunate, they come back and open that door for someone else. Claire drifted to consciousness, not to decay, but to hazy, filtered light. A wooden ceiling, old but clean, no sirens, no shouting. The scent of magnolia, a distant fireplace. She tried to shift, a groan escaping. The mattress was soft clothes, dry smelling of soap. Her shoulder throbbed, her foot ached, but the bone-deep cold was gone, replaced by the weight of a thick woolen blanket. Memories flooded back, the rain, Darlene's cruelty, Mark's betrayal, the walk, the shed, Ava's cries, Eli's whisper, "Please don't leave me, Mommy." "My children, where are my children?" she cried, bolting upright. The door opened, a tall man, steady, unassuming. "They're in the next room, sleeping. Safe, Ms. Matthews." Who are you?" "Grayson Farm. Nathaniel Grayson. I found you in the old storage shed. Doc Martin checked the children. Resilient, just exhausted. You were hypothermic high fever, and that shoulder needed stitches. The beam that grazed you could have been much worse. You've been sleeping since early morning. She looked around. Small, warm, rustic comfort. A reading lamp, a towel. You found us. He nodded. Nathaniel Grayson. This was Jedediah's room. He raised me. A long moment. Then a broken whisper from Claire. I didn't think we were going to make it. Nathaniel pulled a chair closer. You got your children out. You kept them alive. That makes you a mother in every real sense, Ms. Matthews. A damned good one. Tears came hot fast, unhidden. They threw me out, she managed. My husband, his mother, in the storm, said the children might not even be his. Nathaniel didn't ask why. Their names are Eli and Ava, twins, just turned 3. Eli, he whispered, Mommy, please don't leave me. If anything brought you, maybe it was his voice. Nathaniel's reply was soft. It was real, Ms. Matthews. His voice. That and other things, that voice, pulled me out of memories I thought buried. He met her gaze. I was left in that very shed when I was 6. Same storm, same cold, same silence. Except no one came for me. Her eyes widened. And now you came back. Not to relive it, he corrected gently. Because I needed to make sure if anyone else ever ended up there, they wouldn't be alone. I couldn't save the boy I was. But maybe I could save someone else. A shuffle. Eli, small, silent, appeared at the door, gaze fixed on his mother. Eli, Claire called gently. He hesitated, then cautious steps. Mummy's okay now, she whispered, pulling him into a fierce embrace. Mummy, where's Mummy? Ava sat up, blinking. Right here, Ava, love. Little feet patted. Ava flung herself into her mother's arms. Nathaniel rose, stepping back. Maggie Jean entered with a tray tea broth. Good morning, Miss Matthews. Or afternoon. I'm Maggie Jean. Chamomile tea with ginger and broth. Thank you, Maggie. Just Maggie. These little ones are treasures. Ava woke up bold as brass and informed me this old house has no ghosts. Highest compliment. A genuine laugh, weak, fragile, but real. Here with her children, they were safe. Not alone. One person choosing to stay could alter a life. A new fragile chapter had begun. 3 days later, a fragile sun pierced the bruised clouds. Grayson Farm began to breathe. Ava, recovering, scribbled on cardboard with crayons Maggie had unearthed. A heroic bumblebee saga unfolded. Eli, quiet, whittled pine with a borrowed penknife under Maggie's eye, rarely letting his mother out of his sight. Claire, in the sun-dappled kitchen with Maggie, folded laundry, absorbing the unfamiliar peace. Her hands, though bearing frost nips tracings, were steadier. The haunted look was receding. Maggie glanced from Ava to Eli, then to Claire. Little Ava a firecracker. Young Eli a deep well. He's a lot like the boss man when he was a lad. Didn't say much then, either a feral thing. Used to sit by that window for months watching. His eyes always thinking. Full of untold stories. Claire sighed. Eli carries the weight of someone who's seen too much. Maggie nodded. That's how Nathaniel survived too. By watching, by absorbing. When Jedediah brought him here, he didn't speak for 3 months. But his eyes, Claire, so deep. Claire hesitated. Maggie, I don't know what we'll do. They deserve stability, a home. She took a breath. Could we stay a little longer until I find work? I'll help in any way. I don't expect charity. Maggie smiled. Speak to Mr. Nathaniel. He's private but fair. But this old house hasn't felt this alive in years. Not since you and these children arrived. Like you brought the light back. That night after the children slept, Claire found Nathaniel in the living room, staring into the dying embers of the fire. A leather-bound journal lay open, unheeded. "Still up," she whispered. "Can't settle. Something on your mind, Claire." He used her first name. She sat opposite. "I never properly said thank you. For everything. For not asking questions. When we must have looked like refugees." Nathaniel turned. "I used to hate being questioned. People have their reasons." "We don't have anywhere else, Nathaniel," Claire admitted. "Could we stay for a while? I'll help. I'm a hard worker." Nathaniel looked at her, a ghost of a smile. "This house used to be cold, Claire. Empty. Missing people truly living within its walls." He closed the journal. "You and the children can stay, for as long as you need. Maggie Jean would likely mutiny if I suggested you leave." Claire's breath hitched. A soft, shy, sincere smile. "Thank you," she whispered, the first exhalation in years. One crisp autumn evening, Nathaniel sat on the living room floor, Ava attempting to teach him a complicated clapping game, her laughter echoing. Eli sat nearby, drawing occasionally, offering a shy smile. Claire stood in the doorway, a dish towel forgotten, overwhelmed by the sight of her children, not just safe, but radiating simple, unadulterated happiness. Even Maggie Jean paused, her gaze softening. She leaned towards Claire. "Been a long time, child, since this old house or that complicated man has felt this warm." Claire looked at Nathaniel. His stoic face creased with a rare, unguarded laugh as Ava held up a crayon. A fleeting, treacherous thought. If only Mark had ever looked at them with a fraction of that delight. Maggie, intuitive, saw the shadow. She placed a warm hand on Claire's. "Go to them, child. Your heart needs mending too. You deserve every good, kind, gentle thing." Claire approached, sat on the rug. She turned to Nathaniel, her voice low. She told him about Mark, the charming suitor, the hollow man. Darlene sculpted from ice and disdain. The nights huddled in the hallway. The accidents, the fall down the stairs, cracked rib-contused shoulder. Darlene dismissing it as clumsiness, preventing proper medical care beyond a vet friend's cursory check. And finally, the night they threw her out, Mark smashing Ava's milk bottle before Darlene ushered her out. Nathaniel said nothing, gaze fixed on the fire. But in Claire's posture, he saw something achingly familiar. A boy peering through warped slats, watching a frightened girl cling to her mother's dress as an angry man shouted. His heart recognized a kindred spirit. The next morning, Nathaniel called his attorney in Helena Sarah Chen, formidable, tenacious, discreet. "Sarah," he said, voice quiet, "I need everything on Mark Wallace and Darlene Wallace. Glendale. Dig deep. Financial irregularities, past complaints, anything that smells off. Spare no expense." A few days later, a thick manila folder arrived. He carried it to the study Jedediah had filled with books on agriculture philosophy and local Montana history, including the faded ledger from the old Grayson grist mill that had burned down decades ago under mysterious circumstances. He placed the folder on the desk, where only the ticking of an old grandfather clock disturbed the silence. He poured coffee, sat, began to flip. Nathaniel set the page down, knuckles white. He sat in silence. Far off Ava's laughter. He walked to the kitchen. Claire hummed measuring flour. Maggie showed her a kneading technique. Ava, flour on her nose, giggled. He watched them. He remembered that shed so long ago. A terrified 6-year-old peeking through cracks, seeing a girl's fleeting smile. He couldn't intervene then. This time, he would not leave anyone behind that door. Claire looked up, smudged with flour, saw the open folder. She understood. Someone had dragged her past into the light. She sat, turned each page. Steady hand. Each fact a surgical stitch. Not reopening, but closing an injury left to bleed. Her hand trembled once. Her eyes clear, devoid of tears, filled with dawning terrible resolve. Her voice firm. Not for revenge, Nathaniel. I don't have the energy. Because for so long I thought I was flawed, broken, deserved it. She looked towards Ava's laughter. I can't let the next time for someone else be another mother who doesn't survive. Another child who thinks that pain is normal. Nathaniel met her gaze. Unspoken understanding. He nodded. I'll take care of my part, Claire. Sarah is preparing affidavits, coordinating. You just keep living. Raise your children. That is the hard part, the vital part. Claire smiled. Genuine, powerful, born of burgeoning hope. Knowing someone strong stood behind her, believed her, would fight. Some people, like spoiled children, desire what they've carelessly discarded only when seeing it cherished. Mark Wallace was such a man. For 3 weeks he'd luxuriated in his freedom. Then Darlene, whose machinations made Machiavelli look like an amateur, handed him a note. Mrs. Henderson, prominent church gossip, had visited her sister near the Montana border, spotted Claire and the twins looking distressingly healthy coming out of the Grayson Medical Clinic, near Nathaniel Grayson's reoccupied ranch. Mark froze. Grayson, Nathaniel Grayson, Darlene always abreast. Nathaniel Grayson, Mark Deere, reclusive biotech magnate. Global Innovators cover. Regenerative farming, soil restoration, apparently a sizable fortune. Millionaire farmer philanthropist holed up on his ancestral pile. She didn't mention her own growing unease, the unsettling whispers about Grayson's ruthlessness in business. Mark called a PI. Find my ex-wife, Claire Matthews, Grayson County, Montana. Twin children, Eli and Ava. The man she's with, Nathaniel Grayson. Everything. What she's playing at. 3 days later, the report. Encrypted email. A grainy photo, Claire laughing, holding Ava. Eli beside a tall, dark-haired man, Grayson, showing him a book. The image sent pure rage through Mark. The dossier, Grayson's rise net worth, reclusive nature, returned to the farm. An additional note, Grayson had recently acquired majority shares in a local bank that held several of Mark's outstanding and now precarious business loans. A cold knot formed in Mark's stomach, a slow, ugly smirk. Well, well, Claire, always knew you were sly. He crushed his cigarette, grabbed his keys. He was going to Grayson County, get his children back, and put Claire firmly back in her place. He made another call to a cousin, a large, thuggish man known for solving problems. Mac. Mark said, fancy a road trip to Montana, could use some moral support. At Grayson Farm, the air was still, the wind a whisper, sun a pale disk. Ava lined up acorns. Eli carved a wooden spoon for Maggie, his focus intense. Claire watched a soft smile. Peace. Then the crunch of tires. Not one vehicle, but two. A sleek black SUV and a battered pickup truck. Mark stepped out of the SUV, pristine, shirt-slicked hair, holding a garishly wrapped box of cookies, a bright gift bag. His cousin Mac, hulking and menacing, emerged from the truck, a tire iron glinting almost casually in his hand. Mark's eyes, cold assessing, scanned the yard house children. Claire, he drawled, warmth not reaching his eyes. Well, well, look at you. Claire stepped onto the porch, legs stiff. The children, sensing the shift, moved behind her, Eli pulling Ava closer. You look surprisingly well, Claire. Mark continued, lips curving into a sneer. Not quite the last image I had of you. Claire, a silent guardian. Why are you here, Mark? To see my kids, of course. What other reason? Since when? Claire countered, voice gaining a dangerous edge. Did you remember they are your kids, or were you just bored? Mark's smile faltered. Max shifted, tapping the tire iron against his leg. Look, I get you're mad, Claire. Maybe Mom and I overreacted. But you can't keep them from me. I'm their father. The law says that counts, even in Montana. He took a step. Mac mirrored him. A quiet creak. Nathaniel stepped from the shadows, positioning himself at Claire's right, a solid presence. One large hand gently on her shoulder. I'm Nathaniel Grayson. I own this land, this house. These people are under my protection. If you have business here, Mr. Wallace, conduct it through a lawyer. From a distance. Mark's eyes flickered. Contemptuous amusement. So, this is it. Found yourself a wealthy benefactor, huh, Claire? A sugar daddy. Always knew you were resourceful. His voice dripped sarcasm. He took another aggressive step, reaching the porch. Mac advanced menacingly on the other side. Claire's voice, low, shaking with fury, cut through his sneer. You threw us out into a deadly storm, Mark. You called me a whore, watched your mother dismantle my life, smashed our daughter's milk, and you show up with cookies and cheap trinkets thinking that makes you a father. Mark's face flushed dark red. I said I was sorry. It was a mistake. You can't keep them from me. They're my children. Max suddenly lunged, trying to grab Ava from behind Claire. Ava screamed a raw, terrified wail. Eli, pale eyes enormous, gripped the screen door. Don't let him in, Mommy. His voice, though quiet, sliced through. Please don't let the bad men come in. Before Mac's hand could reach Ava, Nathaniel moved with lightning speed. A blur of motion, a thud, and Mac was on the ground, gasping, the tire iron clattering away. Maggie Jean, who had appeared with a heavy cast-iron skillet, stood ready though Nathaniel hadn't needed her help. Mark stared, momentarily stunned by Nathaniel's swift, decisive action. Then, seeing Mac down, he tried to bluster. Eli, son, it's Dad. Don't be silly. I just came to visit. He held up the gift bag. Eli didn't look. He stepped back, pulling Ava closer. Claire stepped forward, descending one step directly in Mark's path. You don't come in, Mark. You don't call them yours. You forfeited that right. What are you to them? A biological accident? A bad memory? Mark's face crimson. I'll sue you, Claire, drag you through every court. I'll fight for full custody. You think this farmer can stop me? Nathaniel effortlessly stood directly before Mark, relaxed yet unshakable. Excellent. We'll look forward to court. But don't show your face here again without a uniformed officer and a subpoena. One more unsolicited step, and what happened to your friend there will seem like a gentle nudge. I assure you the local sheriff is already on his way, alerted by our rather modern security system. Trespassing accompanied by assault with a deadly weapon. That's serious time in Montana. Mark stared, deflated. He turned to Claire, eyes bloodshot, venomous. You think he'll let you stay forever? Claire, men like him get bored. Claire, direct. No fear. He's kept me safer and shown my children more kindness in 3 weeks than you ever did. Now leave. Mark swallowed hard, shot a hateful glare, scrambled into his SUV. Mac, groaning, was helped into the pickup by a suddenly arrived deputy sheriff. Mark tore out, engine roaring, leaving acrid rubber and toxic presence. Another deputy calmly took statements. Claire's legs felt like jelly, Nathaniel's arm instantly supporting her. That night, Eli sat alone on the porch. Uncle Nathaniel. He whispered a new honorific. Mommy cries in her room. I hear her. I don't want her scared. Don't let the bad man come back. Nathaniel pulled the boy close. Ava, half asleep, wandered out. Nathaniel gathered her too. I promise, Eli. Ava, he vowed fiercely. No one will hurt your mom again. Not while I'm here. Not ever. Claire, frozen in the doorway, tears streaming. Not weakness, fear, or relief, but witnessing someone else, strong, capable, holding her children safe when she felt utterly incapable. breathtaking, heartbreaking beauty. The next morning, sky bruised gray. Wind whistled. A storm was coming. On the study table, the manila folder. Nathaniel flipped a page. Stark facts. Claire, hand on his chair. It's time, she said, quiet, firm. Time, Nathaniel. Nathaniel nodded. Yes. Time to stop leaving everyone behind a closed, locked door. At dawn, Grayson Farm was quiet, anticipatory. Maggie prepared breakfast. Ava, hesitant. Eli, listless eyes on the door. Maggie, comforting. Your mom and Uncle Nathaniel know what they're doing. Trust them. Eli, surprisingly steady. I want to go with them. Claire knelt beside him. Eli, baby lawyer's a judge. It might get loud. Mark might say hurtful things. I don't want you to hear that. Eli met her eyes, preternaturally mature. I don't need to speak. But if I sit beside you, they'll know you're not alone. He can't say mean things if I'm holding your hand. Silence. Then Maggie Jean stood fierce determination, grabbed scarves, hats. Then today, she declared, we all go, all of us. No one gets left behind. Not today. Not ever again on this farm. She looked towards the old Grayson grist mill ruin in the distance, a place she knew held significance for Nathaniel's hidden past, a past slowly, painfully coming to light. Some old ghosts need to be laid to rest for good. The Jefferson County Courthouse, imposing stone. Family court, high ceilings, dark wood, hard benches, austere, pale fluorescent light. Claire entered small, determined. Simple white blouse, dark hair, in a severe ponytail. A worn notebook clutched her private testament. Eli and Ava between Maggie Jean and Nathaniel. Nathaniel beside and slightly behind Claire, expression unreadable, eyes alert. Mark Wallace across the aisle, expensive suit, red power tie. Eyes red, restless, glittering with bitterness, resentment, possessive anger. Darlene, ramrod, straight Chanel dress, snakeskin purse. Dismissive glance at Claire, a returned, damaged package. Side door, Judge Amanda Albright, early 60s silver hair face that had seen too much. 30 years on the bench, fairness, sharp intellect, unerring ability to discern truth. People whispered she was the last door, final bastion for family justice. Single nod. Preliminary custody hearing. Case FC 2023-714. Matthews versus Wallace. Counsel ready. Claire's attorney, Sarah Chen, rose. Compact, her presence filled the space. We are, Your Honor. Petitioner, Miss. Claire Matthews requests sole legal and physical custody and a permanent restraining order against Mr. Mark Wallace and Ms. Darlene Wallace. Sarah began calm, methodical. Your Honor, we submit a certified medical report. Fractured 7th rib, severe contusions, abrasions. Dated October 17, 2019, after an alleged fall. We submit evidence of denied medical assistance and family support application containing Ms. Matthews' forged signature proven executed by Ms. Darlene Wallace. This prevented access to crucial support and trauma counseling for herself and her children. She paused. Furthermore, audio testimony from neighbors, October 24th this year. Mark Wallace verbally abusing and forcibly ejecting his wife and children during a severe weather event. Egregious emotional trauma. Sarah pressed play. Mark's raw, furious voice. Get the hell out, done with you, done with those damn kids. Always known they're not even mine. Get out. Ava's terrified sobbing. Eli's desperate screams. No, Mommy, don't leave us, please, Daddy, no. A collective gasp. Darlene lowered her eyes, a faint flush. Mark shifted, knuckles white. Claire, ramrod, still eyes on the table. Nathaniel's hand subtly found hers. Mark's lawyer, Peterson, slick, condescending. Your Honor, My client regrets any intemperate language. He denies physical harm or endangerment. Ms. Matthews left of her own accord. A history of dramatic overreactions. Suddenly, Darlene nudged him, whispered furiously. Peterson looked flustered, then composed himself. Furthermore, Your Honor, we have a witness who can attest to Ms. Matthews' erratic behavior and unsuitability as a mother. A small, mousy woman was called, looking terrified. She stammered about seeing Claire yelling at the children, appearing unstable. Sarah Chen, with devastating calm, produced security footage from a grocery store from the alleged date, showing Claire patiently dealing with a tired Ava, then Darlene Wallace meeting the witness for coffee the day before handing her a thick envelope. The witness crumpled. Claire was called. Quiet dignity. I didn't leave out of anger, Your Honor. I left because I couldn't allow my children to learn silence was the only response to cruelty. I used to bow my head, make myself smaller. My children don't deserve to believe such fear, such degradation is normal, or that love looks like a clenched fist. Mark leaped up. That's a lie. I lost my job. I was stressed. I loved my kids. Judge Albright voice like chipped ice. Mr. Wallace, sit down. One more outburst, you'll be removed. To Mark. The court record assault accusation. Ms. Amelia Hayes, 2016. Case dropped after financial settlement. Correct. Mark paled. Years ago, no bearing. Old grievances, Mr. Wallace often illuminate patterns. To Sarah Chen. Forged signature on benefits denial. Yes, Your Honor. Sarah produced the handwriting analysis. Conclusion signature, not Ms. Matthews. Confirmed forgery. Ms. Darlene Wallace's fingerprints exclusively on that section. As she spoke, she added, We also have evidence, Your Honor, from Darlene Wallace's pharmacist that shortly before Ms. Matthews's fall, Ms. Wallace purchased significant quantities of a powerful sedative not prescribed to her or anyone in the household. The same sedative which, if administered incorrectly, can cause severe dizziness and disorientation. We request the court consider this in light of the subsequent accidental fall and Darlene Wallace's active obstruction of proper medical investigation, including the forgery of clinic letterhead. A stunned silence. Darlene Wallace, genuinely shaken her composure, crumbling. She opened her snakeskin purse, fumbled, then seemed to think better. Mark looked aghast, turning to stare at his mother with a dawning horror. Judge Albright closed the file. Silence stretched. Eli reached out, took his mother's hand. Ava whispered to Maggie, Does the lady judge know Mommy's good? Eli replied, She knows. Today Mommy didn't cry. Mommy stood tall. Judge Albright spoke. This court finds Mr. Mark Wallace has inflicted serious physical, emotional, psychological harm. Miss Darlene Wallace has engaged in fraudulent activities, forgery benefits fraud, and exhibited a disturbing pattern of malicious interference leading to endangerment. Her gaze stern. Therefore, all custodial rights visitation parental claims by Mr. Mark Wallace are suspended indefinitely, pending anger management, substance abuse, counseling, full psychological evaluation. Any future application subject to strictest scrutiny. She paused. Regarding Miss Darlene Wallace. Her actions warrant a full criminal investigation for felony forgery, insurance fraud, conspiracy, and reckless endangerment. This will be forwarded to the district attorney. Evidence related to the sedative will also be presented. She turned to Mark. Mr. Wallace, based on the new information regarding the sedatives and the implications your mother was involved in, causing the fall for which you took no action to protect your wife. This court is also ordering a separate investigation into your potential culpability as an accessory or through criminal negligence. Mark slumped, ashen-faced. Darlene finally shrieked, This is outrageous. A conspiracy, that ungrateful little... Bailiff, remove Miss Wallace, Judge Albright commanded coolly. To Claire, full sole permanent legal and physical custody awarded to Miss Claire Matthews. Psychological support and trauma counseling funded if necessary. Permanent restraining order granted against Mark and Darlene Wallace. Adjourned. Courtroom doors creaked open, sunlight shafting in. Mark lowered his head. Darlene, struggling against the bailiff, shot a look of pure venom at Claire. Claire sat slowly. Didn't cry. Eyes glowed. Nathaniel behind her hand on her shoulder. Maggie whispered to Ava, "Your brave mommy did it." Eli looked at his mother, a slow, tremulous smile. Then to the open doors. Now, soft but clear. Mommy doesn't have to run anymore. Now we're standing still. Together. On the quiet drive back, Ava asleep in Claire's lap. Eli stared out, drawing foggy circles. A wobbly, smiley face. Then stick figures, four hand in hand, under a wobbly sun. He turned, whispered, "Mommy, I drew our family." Claire smiled, her first genuine, unburdened smile. Grayson Farm. Sunlight brushed the rooftops. Maggie stepped out. "We're home. Now it really begins. The good part." Claire nodded, throat full. Simply breathing. Freely. Dinner, cornbread, soup, apple pie. Ava giggled. Eli, engrossed, drew intricate smiley faces. "Lots and lots. So you won't be sad again, Mommy. Not ever." Nathaniel at the sink turned away, hiding the tightening in his chest. The next afternoon, all four headed to the old storage shed. Maggie brought cocoa cookies, a blanket. Claire, a broom dustpan. Ava, crayons, riverstones. Eli, a folded drawing. Nathaniel carried a polished wooden plaque, "No one gets left behind." Not here, not ever. He propped it against the wall. Thud. A solemn vow. Claire swept, brushing away detritus shadows. Maggie sorted old boxes. Ava drew a huge, radiant sun on the threshold. Eli, at the far wall where his mother had collapsed, carefully unfolded his drawing, a smiley face, a large, bold red heart beneath. He taped it to the wall below Nathaniel's plaque. Nathaniel walked to Claire. "Claire, something I should tell you." He gestured to a shadowy corner, a slit between boards. "When I was 6, before Jedediah found me, I stayed here. 3 days, no name. I spent those nights in that corner staring through that crack." He paused. "One afternoon, I saw a woman walk past with a little girl. Flower print dress, reddish gold hair, no shoes, her eyes so bright, laughing." Claire froze, hand to mouth. I remember. My mom cleaned at Big Farms. I wandered off once, by an old shed." Nathaniel nodded. "I remember your eyes, Claire. Like the world hadn't shown you its cruelty." Pause. "I remember thinking, if only someone could hold my hand like that, maybe I wouldn't feel so alone." Claire turned away, chest shaking. "So we passed each other, so close, and didn't meet again until I collapsed where you lay hidden, and Eli sat vigil where you harbored your fears. The symmetry heartbreaking." Nathaniel stepped closer. "This time, Claire, this time, I'm not the scared little boy hiding." Claire turned back, tears but no sorrow, a fragile smile. "And I," she whispered, "am not the little girl who keeps getting lost." Wind slipped through scent of pine and promise. Ava tugged Claire's hand. "Mommy, look, our house, a happy son." "Uncle Nathaniel," Eli called. "My heart picture under your sign, help me hang it higher." Nathaniel lifted it, retaped it. 2 images, a child's heart, a solemn promise. That night, Eli drew a cozy house, yellow light smoke. 4 figures hand in hand, underneath our home. No one left behind, ever. Claire found him, saw the drawing, turned to Nathaniel. "Tomorrow, Nathaniel, I want to paint the shed, fill it with light." Nathaniel nodded. I'll bring the paint, Claire, and this time I'll make damn sure the door stays wide open. He gestured towards a dusty corner. Jedediah always said that old grist mill needed to be either torn down or reborn. Maybe it's time for some rebirth around here. For more than just sheds. Some houses, some hearts just need enough light, warmth, kindness. That day, in an old shed, 4 people stood, with brushes, paint scars, and a resilient shared heart. Ready to begin again, perhaps even to extend that beginning beyond their own walls to other lost souls. 1 week later, Montana changed seasons. Soft sunlight, crisp air scent of cinnamon and apples. Ava cherry-red scarf ran joyous circles. Eli sat with Nathaniel sharpening pencils. Nathaniel carved a frame for Eli's drawing. He doesn't feel like a stranger anymore, does he? Maggie said, stirring stew. This house, so warm. It's the laughter, the children's voices, yours. The next morning, Nathaniel announced, let's go into town, get a few things. For the kids, their new rooms. Ava shrieked, a new dress with flower pockets. Eli nodded, eyes incandescent. Claire looked at Nathaniel. He met her gaze. If we're going to be living like a family, Claire, he said softly, perhaps we should start doing family things. They ambled down Main Street. Bookshop, Ava Cat's comic. Eli crayons, oranges, yellows, reds, sketchbook. Children's clothing. Claire overwhelmed. Nathaniel smiled. Perhaps pick out what you've never allowed yourself. Something just for fun. Returned Range Rover full. Blankets, notebooks, dinosaur dishes, paint nightlights, boots. Ava's wallpaper, pink honeybees. Eli's navy blue world map. Claire on the floor, samples paint on hands. So long, she murmured, since I've seen them just be children. That night, barbecue under star-dusted sky. Bonfire. Ava's bumblebee soccer saga. Eli talkative sketched Nathaniel the man who keeps the wind out. Claire laughed, real unrestrained. Nathaniel quiet, cutting food, refilling glasses, clearing plates. Steady, unwavering, comforting. Later, tucking them in, Eli clutched her hand. Mommy, small, hesitant, can Uncle Nathaniel be a dad, our dad, not like him, just a dad who stays like us? Claire's breath caught, squeezed his hand. Later, she found Nathaniel in the dim hallway, fixing a loose door hinge. Warm firelight, strong hands, calm eyes meeting hers. She knew, the answer unspoken. In comfortable silence, shared mending. Newfound safety. Sometimes morning light slips in, quietly illuminating healing. Claire realized this one sun-drenched June morning nearly 8 months later. Kitchen flooded with light, alive. Maggie humming poured tea. Ava humming, kicking feet. Eli at the family chalkboard drew a sturdy house yellow smoke. 4 figures' hands clasped. Beneath our home. We all stayed. The farmhouse alive. Every footstep clink, laughter smile. Night's gentle whispers, sleepy giggles. Eli no longer haunted, wrote Drew. Claire transformed. Maggie, this old house. Thunder of little feet, happy clatter. This old heart waking up. Nathaniel there. Present, engaged content. Fixing roof, building Claire's art desk, lowering Ava's bookshelf, showing Eli carve his initials, E.G. being. As naturally as sunrise. Claire watching him work with the children on restoring a small outbuilding, a project she now knew was for her art studio and a potential quiet haven for others. Maggie occasionally mentioned women fleeing situations like her own. Realized she wasn't just safe. She was home, truly home. And her art, once a source of private solace, was about to find a larger purpose. On the twins' 4th birthday, sapphire sky, warm air scent of blooms mown hay. Paper flags fluttered, the whole town, it seemed. Farmer's vet postmistress Eli's future teacher, Mrs. Henderson, now Claire's staunch admirer. Cakes, toys, books. Witnessing. Claire, tall, serene green dress, hair, ribboned, smile, genuine, steady, whole. Maggie's three-tiered chocolate cake. Nathaniel, relaxed, chambray shirt, trestle table laden. Eli's sign, today, we were born again. Welcome to our happy. Ava, energy, joy, hugging gift givers. Eli, quieter beside Nathaniel, watchful, thoughtful. Nathaniel leaned in. Doing okay, sport? Eli looked up, serious, considered, soft, clear. Yes, Dad. Nathaniel froze. From Eli, a conscious choice, a pronouncement. The world paused. That single syllable, Dad, melted every last shard of ancient winter. Ava, sensing, ran over. Daddy, Daddy, we're 4 now, big. Nathaniel met Claire's gaze. Luminous, tear-bright smile, eyes clear, deep sure. She nodded, once. This man is home. He scooped them up, spinning. Ava shrieked. Eli clung, whispering, Dad, Dad, Dad. Claire watched, joy, gratitude, faith blooming. Later, Eli tugged Claire to the shed. Pushed open the door. Warm glow. No one gets left behind. He stood, hand in hers. This is where the magic started, Mommy. Right here. Nathaniel joined them, an arm around Claire's shoulders. And this, he said, gesturing to the old stone ruin of the Grayson grist mill, its silhouette stark against the vibrant sunset, is where the next chapter might begin. We could rebuild it, Claire, for more than just us. A true sanctuary. Claire looked at him, then at the solid stones of the old mill, a place of past tragedy that now incredibly whispered of future hope. She imagined it restored, filled with light, laughter, and the quiet hum of healing. A place where no one would ever be left behind again. Sun dipped, family on the porch, lamplight glowed, fields blushed. Nathaniel anchor. Claire leaned into him. Ava sleepy. Eli's sketchbook drew a smiley face. Perfect, wonderfully still. No words needed. No more dark doors, high walls. No more lost children begging. Here, together. And here they would stay. True magic, shared glance, steady hand, beloved name. A door once slammed, now deliberately, lovingly left wide, wide open, inviting not just light, but life itself to flood in and perhaps through them to overflow into the lives of others.